Hare Krishna. Welcome you all on our 90th episode book reading. Today we'll be reading 72 and 73. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshuru Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome you all again, and we will be reading today 72, the slaying of demon Jarāsandha. So Krishna actually went to Hastinapur and meeting with Yudhishthira Maharaj and all the Pandavas. He heard it yesterday, and the Jarāsandha demon will be killed today. And we have also heard that he will be killed by Bhima. So this chapter describes how Lord Krishna heard King Yudhishthira's request and then arranged for Bhishmadeva to defeat Jarāsandha. So one day King Yudhishthira addressed Lord Krishna as he sat in the royal assembly. My lord, I wish to perform the Rājasūya sacrifice. In this sacrifice, people uninterested in your devotional service will be able to see firsthand the superiority of your devotees and the inferiority of non-devotees. They will also be able to see your lotus feet. Lord Krishna extolled Yudhishthira's proposition and said, your scheme is so excellent that it will spread your fame throughout the universe. Indeed, all the living beings should desire that this sacrifice be performed. To make this sacrifice possible, however, you must first defeat all the kings of the earth and collect all the necessary paraphernalia. Satisfied with Lord Krishna's word, King Yudhishthira sent his brothers to conquer various directions. After they had conquered or won the fealty of the kings in their assigned directions, they brought back abundant wealth to Yudhishthira. They informed him, however, that Jarāsandha could not be defeated. As King Yudhishthira pondered how he could subdue Jarāsandha, Sri Krishna revealed to him the means for doing so, and following the previous advice of Uddhava. Also, we see that now all the Pandavas, they actually get all the wealth for the Rājasūya yajna, and this is the time where Arjuna got a name called Dhananjaya, who actually brought so many wealth for the Rājasūya yajna. Then Bhima, Arjuna, and Sri Krishna then disguised themselves as Brahmana and went to place of Jarāsandha, who was very devoted to the Brahmanical class. They introduced themselves as Brahmanas to King Jarāsandha, flattering him by praising his reputation for hospitality, and requested him to grant their desire. Seeing the marks of bowstrings on their limbs, Jarāsandha concluded that they were warriors and not Brahmanas. But still, even though fearful, he promised to fulfill whatever desire they might have. At the point, Lord Krishna discarded his disguise and asked Jarāsandha to fight him in one-to-one combat. But Jarāsandha refused, claiming that Krishna was a coward because he had once fled the battlefield. And Jarāsandha also declined to fight Arjuna on the plea that he was inferior in age and size. But Bhima he considered a worthy opponent. So this see how Krishna tweaked the plan, and then they all went before Jarāsandha. It is being said that every day after worshipping to the deities, Jarāsandha used to give so many donations to the Brahmanas, and all the desires of the Brahmanas are being fulfilled. And that's why they took a form of Brahmanas, and they went there and asked for fighting. And Jarāsandha, he got to know who they are, and then he denied to fight with Krishna and Arjuna, and he accepted Bhima as opponent. And this is a plan of Krishna, that Bhima should fight with him. Thus, Jarāsandha handed Bhima a club and took up another himself, and they all went outside the city to begin the fight. After the fight had gone on for some time, it became clear that two opponents were too equally matched for either to gain victory. Lord Krishna then split a small tree branch in half, thus showing Bhima how to kill Jarāsandha. Bhima threw Jarāsandha on the ground, stepped on his legs, seized the other with his arms, and proceeded to tear him apart from his genitals to his head. So Krishna guided him to Bhima that how Jarāsandha can be killed. So he needs to be torn up from the middle and threw apart. And seeing Jarāsandha dead, his relatives and subjects cried out in lamentation. Lord Krishna then appointed Jarāsandha's sons, the ruler of Magadha, and released the king Jarāsandha had imprisoned. So actually, a couple of times Bhima tear him and throw him apart, but still he could join himself. Then Krishna guided him that you need to throw the bodies in two separate directions so that they won't be able to join back again. And after the death of Jarāsandha, his son was given the ruler of Magadha, and all the kings who were actually imprisoned by Jarāsandha, they are all being relieved. So that is how we end chapter 72. And let's see chapter 73. That is, Lord Krishna blesses the liberated king. So this chapter relates how Lord Sri Krishna, after freeing the kings imprisoned by Jarāsandha, mercifully gave them his audience and bestowed royal gifts upon them. So when Lord Krishna freed the 20,800 kings Jarāsandha has imprisoned, they immediately fell to the ground to pay him obeisances. Then they stood with joined palms and began to pray to him. Seeing their imprisonment as an act of mercy by the Lord to smash their false pride, the kings prayed only to be granted whatever would facilitate their perpetual remembrance of his lotus feet. So this is the way actually everyone should desire, at whatever the conditions we are, we should try to remember the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. The Lord assured the kings that their prayers would be fulfilled. He instructed them, worship me by performing Vedic sacrifices and protect your subjects in accordance with the principles of religion. Fixing your minds on me, beget progeny, and remain always equipoised in happiness and distress. Thus, at the end of your life, you will surely attain me. So again, Krishna explained the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Mana mana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru. So give your thoughts to me, worship me, pay obeisance to me, and be absorbed in me. And by this, we will actually come back to the spiritual world. And also he said that we should be equipoised in happiness as well as in distress. Lord Krishna then saw to it that kings were properly bathed and dressed, and he had Sahadeva offer them flower garlands, sandalwood pearl, fine clothing, and other things suitable for kings. After having them adorned with jewels and golden ornaments, he seated them on chariots and sent them off to their respective kingdoms. In accordance with the orders of the Lord had given them, they began to carry out their various duties once again. So this is how all the kings has been given respected. And Lord Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna then departed for Indraprastha, where they meet with King Yudhishthir and related to him everything what had happened. So that is how we end chapter 73. And chapter 74 is the deliverance of Śiśupāla at Rājasūya Yajna. So now there are two tasks, if you remember, we read yesterday, that one is to do Rājasūya Yajna and one was to kill Jarāsandha. So Jarāsandha was being killed first, and now they are going for Rājasūya Yajna. And where they also kill one more demon as Śiśupāla. So actually Śiśupāla is being delivered at Rājasūya Yajna. So after glorifying Lord Krishna, King Yudhishthir selected qualified brahmanas such as Bharadwaja, Gautama, and Vasishtha to serve the priest as the priest of the Rājasūya sacrifices, and then many exalted guests for all the four social orders arrived to see the sacrificial performance. As the sacrifice proceeded, the ritual of fire worship, the rituals of first worship had to be performed, and the members of the assembly were called upon to decide who would receive this honor. Sahadeva spoke up, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is indeed the most exalted person. So we see here that the first person to be worshipped is Lord Krishna, as being said by Sahadeva. And then Lord is indeed the most exalted person, for he himself comprises all the deities worshipped by the Vedic sacrifice. And we understand this, from Virata Roop, that all the Devi Devatas are actually residing in the body of Lord Krishna himself. So in his role as a super soul, he also is a super soul in the heart. He arranges for everyone in the universe to engage in his particular kind of work, and by his mercy alone, human beings can perform various kind of pious activities and receive the resultant benefits. One who worships him worships all the living entity. Surely Lord Krishna should be worshipped first. So this is how Sadeva spoke about why to worship Lord Krishna first. Nearly everyone in the assembly agreed with Sahadeva's proposal and loudly congratulated him. Thus, the king Yudhishthira happily worshipped Lord Krishna. After bathing his feet, the king took the washed water and sprinkled it on his head, and his wives, younger brothers, ministers, and relatives also sprinkled the water on their heads. And then everyone shouted, all victory, and bowed down to Lord Krishna as flowers rained down from the heaven. However, Śiśupāla could not tolerate this worship and glorification of Sri Krishna. He stood up from his seat and harshly rebuked the wise elders for choosing Krishna to be worshipped first. After all, he said, the Krishna is outside the system of Vedic social and spiritual orders and the society of respectable families. He follows no principles of religion and has no good qualities. So the people who are demonic in nature, they speak these words that Krishna has no good qualities, he has no principle of religion, and he is not respectable family. So let's see. Even as Śiśupāla continued to blaspheme him in this way, Lord Krishna remained silent. But many members of the assembly covered their ears and quickly left the hall. While the Pandava brothers raised their weapons and prepared to kill Śiśupāla, Lord Krishna stopped them from attacking. However, and instead used his Sudarshan Chakra to decapitate the offender. And at the moment, an effulgent spark of the light rose out of Śiśupāla's dead body and entered the transcendental body of the Lord Krishna. Having lived through 3 births as the enemy of Lord, Śiśupāla now attained the liberation of Sayujya, merging into him by dint of his constant meditation on him. So actually, and we know that Śiśupāla was they were the guards and in Vaikuntha, and they have been cursed by the Chatursh Kumar. So they have been coming here for 3 lives, and now they are here going back to the spiritual world. King Yudhishthira then distributed profuse gifts to the respected guests of the assembly and to the priest, and finally he executed the purificatory oblations known as the Prayashchitta Homa. Prayashchitta Homa is basically to encounter the errors during his sacrifices. So Yudhishthira Maharaj Rājasūya sacrifices have now been completed, and Lord Krishna took his leave from the king and set off for Dwarika in the company of his wives and ministers. So Duryodhana could not bear to see this abundant manifestation of King Yudhishthira's prosperity, but apart from him, everyone happily praised the glories of the Rājasūya sacrifice and of Lord of all sacrifices, say Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yagatapaswam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna says, I am the Lord of all the sacrifices as well. So thank you for being with me, and we have actually completed 74, and we are just nearing with more 7 to 8 days and few more chapters to go to 90. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.